Oh my gosh, I need my coffee. Hold on one moment. All right. Where was I? Oh, me cute. Hey, I'm Cece, and I'm back to talk about another Hallmark movie. This time, Country at Heart. I'm doing something a little bit different today, as in I actually put on some makeup. It's been a long time since I've worn any makeup thanks to quarantine and COVID, but I thought today I just needed something different. I was like, I'm gonna do full face of makeup, get a little fancy out here, and I'm feeling good, so let's go ahead and do this movie. I also got some fall decorations out. There's more behind the camera, but you can see here I got my pumpkins. My pumpkins are out. I got some little pumpkins in there, more pumpkins down there. I got leaves and all things I love. I love fall. Oh my gosh. Today's movie is Country at Heart. So I did take some time off. So I'm wicked late with this movie, and we're literally getting into the Christmas movies next week. So I have to get all my fall movies finished up here. Country at Heart, I was really nervous about this one because I love Jesse, Niall, and Lucas. So these are three of my favorite actors for these Hallmark movies. So I was really worried, oh my gosh, because the past few have been, let's face it, terrible. So I was really trying to manage my expectations. Fortunately, it was a good one. In fact, there were several parts of this movie that were better than a lot of the Hallmark movies I see, which I'll get into. So I can't wait to talk about that. All right, so it starts out, we've got Shayna. Shayna is a musician, songwriter, singer who wants to make it, get an album, all that kind of stuff. And she is auditioning for Duke Sterling, who is apparently a big country artist. So that's actually the opening scene, is her auditioning before his manager and the owner of the record label, which I had a note, is that how these things usually go down? I am not in the music industry at all. I have no idea about music industry. But it feels to me like if they needed backup singers for a performer, that A, they would probably already have a roster of people on a short list, or they have casting agent, talent agents or whatever, managers who submit names, and then someone auditions them. It's not like the actual country star's manager and the record label owner or whoever he was. So that was my notes on that. I was like, is this really how this goes? And apparently, the actors in this film were doing all of their own singing. I don't know if they're doing their own playing. I don't play guitar. I was at one point trying to look at their fingers to see if they're actually doing the fingers right, but I couldn't tell because I don't play guitar. So they're either very good actors, because it looked like to me like they were playing it, or they're actually playing it. So Shayna auditions for Duke Sterling, doesn't get it, and decides to go home to her family's ranch horse farm, which is doing a big music festival. So they've put on this big musical festival. It's a fall musical festival every year, and Duke Sterling is going to be playing at this festival. She's home helping set up for this because her music career hasn't taken off, and she runs into Grady. Grady is a friend of Duke Sterling with whom the two of them used to co-write songs together. And we sort of get the impression that Duke Sterling took credit for one of Grady's songs, because we see them together and they're sort of having this tension that they don't want to work together, even though the label has asked Grady to write a hit song for Duke Sterling, because they're like, we need a hit song, you need a hit song, he needs a hit song, we just need a hit song. And since you guys worked together so well and your songwriting history is so strong, we need you to do this. And so the two of them are just like, So you can kind of, that was sort of the impression I got. And then Grady's in town because he's working on this song for Duke so that he can perform it at the festival. And he runs into Shayna. And they have an adorable meet cute. I loved this one. It was great. So he's like playing a song. And so she makes some quippy comment about which chord he should use. And then they sort of banter back and forth. And it was hysterical. I laughed out loud. I laughed out loud. So, you know, it was good because I legit laughed. Oh my gosh, I need my coffee. Hold on one moment. All right. Where was I? Oh, meet cute. Spot on. That was a great meet cute. They met. It was cute. I loved it. Big thumbs up. So then later that week, like the next day or something, so she's setting up for the, oh no. So later that night, Shayna is playing at the local bar. She runs into Grady again. He sees her perform and he's like, wow, this girl's really good. Woman, I'm sorry. This woman's really good. And the next day, so he sort of searches her out, and the next day he finds her setting up for the festival and he gives her his card. And he's like, hey, you know, I'd really like to write a song together, which is a hysterical scene because she thinks he's hitting on her. So I'm actually going to insert that here because I thought this was hysterical.
Maybe we could try to write a song together.
I don't think so.
Come on, give it some thought.
You sure this isn't a line?
Not a line.
Definitely a line. He's kind of cute. What do you want? He wants to write a song with me. It's totally a line. Totally. Come on.
So, of course, she goes home and Googles him and finds out, yes, he's a legit songwriter. So she's like, okay. So she gives him a call and is like, hey, you okay? I'm down for writing a song with you. So he tells her all about the song that he's writing for Duke Sterling and that he wants her to help out with him and they need to get it done for the weekend for the big concert. Meanwhile, Duke Sterling has showed up in town, and through their songwriting process, Shayna and Grady are getting close, and he tells her, you know, when you're performing, it's a little less genuine. You need to sing the way you talk to me, you know, like the way, put a little more your emotion into it. So she gets up on stage that night, again at the bar, and invites him to come up and sing with her. And so the two of them are singing her song that she performed the other night, and Duke Sterling walks in and sees her performing and is really impressed. I mean, obviously she's beautiful too, let's be honest. Let's call a spade, right? Which, speaking of beautiful, I'm loving the red hair. I was actually discussing this with my coworker, that we love Jessie's hair this color. She, you know, we've seen her blonde, but this sort of auburn is really, we're here for it. So it's a good color on her. I mean, there's no bad color on her. She's a very beautiful woman, but we're liking the red. We're liking the red in this season of her life. Anyways, so yeah, so he sees her sing and she starts to freak out, like, oh my gosh, Duke Sterling's here and he's seeing me sing. And Grady's like, here, I'll introduce you. And she's like, oh my God, really? So he brings her down, she meets him, and Duke Sterling's manager's there too. And she's like, oh my gosh, you know, it's good to see you again. And he's like, what? She's like, I auditioned for you last week for the backup singer position. He's like, oh, yeah, sorry, you didn't get that, you know. And she's like, oh, yeah, no worries. And Duke's like, really? I feel like she needs a second audition. So manager's like, okay, I'll give you a call. And then she picks up on the tension between Duke and Grady, and so afterwards she asks him, like, you know, what's the deal with you two? And he's like, oh, you know, it's just, we've been friends a long time, it just sort of fell apart, it's not really a thing. He's, you know, playing it really cool, like, he could have gone off on this guy, but he's like, you know, I'm not going to throw him under the bus or anything. So they go on, and then Duke Sterling shows up at Shayna's family ranch and asks for a tour. So she brings him on a tour. He asks her to perform a song at the big concert as sort of his opening act. And so she freaks out because why wouldn't she? This is a big deal for someone who's been trying to break into the business, and now she's going to suddenly get to basically open for one of the biggest country stars. That's massive for her career. Grady clearly isn't too happy about it because he's obviously falling in love with her. But he acts all, no, that's great. This is great for your career. And then her father's even like, yeah, I get a feeling you don't like the guy. And Grady's like, no, it's big for her career. My feelings on the guy is irrelevant. I thought maybe there was going to be like sort of a love triangle. But no point did Duke Sterling sort of ever make any moves. Like, he might have been thinking about it. It never really developed into a full triangle. It was more, the triangle was career. I got my coffee. Career. No, don't pick up my cap. This sofa. Are you going to jump up here? I'm just going to walk around my feet. You're all lean back. Is that what you want? I got a cat trying to decide if he's going to jump into my lap or not. So the triangle is career or love. So it's not really two men. It's between, your dreams and love, which actually is brought up, and she makes her choice, and it's this whole thing. But it's great. So we're getting close to the show. They're working on their song. It's really coming out great. Shayna performs with Duke at the bar one night, and he makes some comment which upsets Grady. So she's like, "Why are you so mad?" And that's when he tells her that Duke Sterling's biggest, first #1 hit, the song he supposedly wrote by himself with no help, was actually written by Grady, or by both of them. I think they wrote it together. So Grady's like, he took credit. He's going to take credit for this song and your work as well. He's like, I just don't trust the guy. And then Shayna talks to Duke about it, and he's like, well, my side is that the label was like, we need to, in order to make you a star, we need to sell this as that you wrote it all by yourself. He's like, so they just ran with it. He's like, they never asked me. They just published it and promoted it as a song written by myself. He's like, I know I should have said something. I could have gone to the press. He's like, but then it would have ruined both our careers. And he's like, so I'm not entirely not to blame for this, but I didn't initially set out to do it either. So they're really trying to paint him as a sympathetic character, and she's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And I'm like, no. AITA, yes. Yes, you are. You took credit for someone else's work. Don't pretend like somehow you're in the wrong, or that you were forced to do it, because you were not. You are not. But Shayna's interesting though, because it's not like she doesn't even, she's like not mad at either one of them. She's just kind of like, you guys, this was years ago. You both need to grow up and stop acting so stubborn, because clearly you were a great team. You could be again. Just talk it out, behave like adults. But it comes down to the big night of it's not the night, it's the day of the big concert, the first concert where he's supposed to play the song, and it's not quite done yet. So they're at the big festival. Shayna's there because she's supposed to do her sound check, her rehearsal. But Grady is working on the song because he has to finish it. And she's like, you're going to finish it on your own? He's like, well, you have to rehearse. So then she's standing there and debating, like, do I stay here and rehearse, or do I go to Grady and help finish this song? So this was that decision between career or, well, I wouldn't call it love, but anyways. And she's like, no, I gotta finish the song. Well, I guess it is love because she's choosing Grady. So she's like, I'm gonna go finish the song. I can't rehearse. So she goes to Grady. They finish the song. It's perfect. Grady's like, I'm leaving tonight because I got another job, so I'm not gonna be staying around. And she's like, oh, no. And then she brings the song back to Duke, and he has cut her out of the performance because she wasn't there for rehearsal. I mean, totally logical. So she tracks him down to explain and to give him the song, not to get her spot back, which I loved as great. She's like, no, I made the decision to not be there for rehearsal. I accept this, but you need, she's like, let me explain why I did it, because it's because we had to perfect this fantastic song for you. And the last thing Grady had said before he left was like, this should be a duet. You need to sing this with Duke. Or so she gives it to Duke, explains everything, and he's like, yeah, that makes sense. He's like, I know you've sung your song like a million times. He's like, so we got like 5 minutes. You have enough time for like a quick rehearsal. So why don't you go? And he's like, wait, this is a duet. She's like, yeah, we kind of changed that too. So FYI. So she's back in the show. She calls Grady to tell him everything and that she cares about him. So of course he turns around and comes back to town. So she goes up and goes to sing the song that they wrote for Duke, and so she starts it, and then he's supposed to come and join her. But naturally, of course, he realizes what's going on between her and Grady. So Duke tells Grady, no, you have to go on, and then they sing the song together, and then they kiss, and it's happily ever after, as you would say. Notice there was no 20-minute manufactured conflict. I was thrilled. I'm like, so yeah, there was conflict, because we had that whole fight with Duke and Sterling, but it was something that was established early on, and the tension built and how it was affecting her. So it hit its natural climax, about 20 minutes before the film ended, but it wasn't something that they just quickly pulled out of thin air 20 minutes before the film ended just to create a conflict. Like, it was something that already existed. It was the story. There was a story. There was an arc to this story. It was exactly what you expect from a movie. This is one of the best story arcs I've ever seen with a Hallmark movie. Oh my gosh. I can't even begin to tell you how thrilled I was. I mean, I even have notes where I'm like, wait, are they taking this to the natural climax and not trying to manufacture something in the last 20 minutes? I was like, question, exclamation point. So I can't even, this is fantastic. Oh, what a relief. And I was actually engaged in this movie. Like, I was watching it and wanted to know what happened, because like, we knew something happened between Duke and Grady. And it's kind of alluded to that, yeah, he took credit for a song, but it's like we never knew the exact details, not until near the end. So it's like we never really knew exactly what happened to them. And then we got both sides and sort of the explanation of it. Things moved along and you were engaged and you wanted to see what happened next. And it was so interesting. And all of the songs were sung by the performed actors, and they were original songs. And I know there's a lot of criticism online, about some of their singing, but I thought they were great. I particularly love the way Shayna and Grady's, or I guess Jesse and Niles' voices sound together. So actually I have a clip that I'll insert.
My mama gave me this guitar when I was 12 years old, and as far as I can tell, it's the only thing I'll ever hold. I guess that road less traveled on is the one I chose to take. Sometimes it seems I'm trying to see how much this heart can break, trying to be a big.
I just like the sound of it. It sounds so beautiful. I think the blend of their voices is very unique but engaging and enthralling. I really enjoyed them singing together. So yeah, that was great. Then the music was fun. So yeah, great movie. Some of the things I do want to comment on, because obviously it's a Hallmark movie, so there's always going to be something that's a little, you're like, what was that? There was this really funny scene. Well, it's not supposed to be funny. I thought it was funny. when Grady first shows up in town, what are you doing? He goes to check in at the motel. So he walks in, and the lady's just like, oh, you're here for the music festival? And they have like a couple exchanges, and then he walks out.
Ah, here for the music festival, I take it. More musicians here per square foot than anywhere in the country this week.
Oh, you don't say.
I do say. There's some big name talent. Well, Duke Sterling.
He's somebody?
Duke Sterling? The country music star?
Not really into music. It's where I keep my shirts. Thank you.
At no point did she ask him for his name, for some sort of reservation or confirmation number, his credit card, money. Like, he just walks in and she's like, you know what? You look just like the guy who must have reserved room 302. Here's your key. Like, what? Usually there's a little exchange that happens other than some banter. So that was funny. I was like, how did she know who he was and what room to give him? Because this is a big festival, so you know these rooms are booked out months in advance. So it's not like... And even if he was just getting a room, he would say, you know, 1 room, please. And she'd like, you know, payment, please. So I thought that was hysterical. All right, so I was just editing the clip to insert here, and I noticed some like movement happening just below camera. And I think he's actually handing her his license. So like he gets there, you see him like reach into his pocket for something, and then you see his arms sort of like move out. And then you see her hand something across, and he takes it back and puts it in his pocket again. So I think he actually is handing her his license. So, whoops. I've slowed it down so you can see it more clearly. So I'm going to insert that here. But yeah, I think that's my bad. Because it does look like he does, in fact, hand her something. It just was the victim of the cutting room floor. All right, so you can see him reaching in his pocket, and then he's handing something across to her. She reads it, and then she hands it back, and then he's putting it back in his pocket, as you can see from his shadow right there. The other thing that amused me a little bit was like the excessive layering on some of the characters. I mean, what was it when Shayna first comes to town? Her like best friend is wearing like a plaid flannel long sleeve shirt, and then a denim jacket unbuttoned, and then a vest over the top of that unbuttoned. So I'm like, so it's not so cold as to requiring anything to be buttoned up, but it's cold enough that you need to layer on like 3 jackets. It was just weird. And then again, later, Shayna does the same thing where she's like wearing one shirt and then another shirt and then another jacket. It like there was all unbuttoned. So it's just like lots of layers, which is fine. I mean, it's fall and all. And it probably wasn't fall while they were filming, so they were probably layering, but it was too warm, so they all left them open.
Hey! Oh my gosh! Oh. How did Nashville? Well, here we are.
It's hard to believe you grew up here.
But yeah, it caught me as amusing. Obviously, all of these characters are supposed to be from the South of the United States, and they were all adopting, or at least attempting to adopt, Southern accents, which was extremely inconsistent, to be kind. At one point I thought, I'm like, oh, look at these guys just committing to the fact that they're not using a country accent. And then in the next scene, they were using a country accent. I'm like, oh no, we are trying. Wow. And as you can tell from my drawl and strong twang, I'm from New England. So if I'm noticing how bad your country accent is, you can just imagine what other people think. So I was like, where are these people supposed to be from? Yeah. It was pretty bad in places. I'm like, at that point, just don't bother. Don't bother. Claim they maybe, you know, there's a lot of country stars who are not from the South. Just say they came from somewhere else. Canada, I think they're all Canadian anyways. Just Shania Twain. So just accept that there's no Southern accent and stop trying to fake it. It was interesting. There was a really cute scene at the end when Shane is performing and her dad, the record label, comes to see her perform and her dad starts talking to him. So I'll insert that clip. I just thought it was really funny.
That's my daughter. Isn't she wonderful?
Yeah? Hey, have her call me.
Thank you.
That was just so adorable. Or there's this one part where they're baking pies, or Shayna's baking pies, and Grady's there because they're working on the song at the same time. And there's a pie out of the oven, and he's like, oh, is this cool enough? And then he makes a move like he's gonna stick a finger in it. And I'm kind of like, what was your intention there?
How would you like these?
Right here, please. Thank you.
That one's cooled down?
Yeah. Paying customers only. Step away from the pie.
All right.
Their pumpkin pie, it's not like a cake where you can sort of like get a little bit of frosting, or maybe a gooey pie like an apple pie or blueberry where you can get like a little bit of blueberry on your finger. I'm like, pumpkin pie, that's gel, that's set. Like, you can't just like stick your finger into a pumpkin pie and it not be massively obvious that you stuck your finger in it. Or it's like, you just like, swipe it across the top of it? What was he gonna do? I had to rewound it. I'm like, wait, what's happening here? Who sticks their finger into a pumpkin pie? So, yeah. I don't know if they was always written as pumpkin pie, or or the person who wrote it did not know how pumpkin pies work. I was like, what's happening? The last thing I have to say, and this is probably just me, I don't know, maybe because I was more engaged in this movie than I usually am. Usually I'm watching these movies and doing other things. I was knitting. I actually have my knitting here too. I'm still working on that green shawl. At this point, I think I'm just going to do these reviews and not try to knit at the same time because it's too distracting for myself. Anyways, and then I mess up. It's a disaster. I was knitting, but I was watching pretty closely, and I felt like the cuts to commercial were oddly abrupt. Like, there were several times where the person was like mid-sentence or something. I felt like suddenly we were in commercial. I'm like, what just happened? Now, a lot of times with these movies, the commercial breaks are really obvious where they are. If you ever watch them, like get the DVDs or something, or where there is no commercials, it's very clear where a commercial is supposed to be. Like, they usually, they're like, draw out, or it's a natural insertion place for a commercial. But in this one, the commercials just seem to just like come out of nowhere several times, and I'm not sure if that's how it usually works and I just never noticed before, or if the editing on this movie was just not particularly good. So I'm not a film critic. I have never studied any sort of film editing or any of that kind of stuff. So maybe it was just me, and I can't speak to it intelligently, but that's what it seemed. They seemed abrupt to me. That was my only real criticism. But yeah, that's all I had to say in this movie, because I did like it, so I don't have a lot to talk about and pick apart, because it was actually a really good movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think they all did a great job. I think my favorite, though, Shane and Grady, there was chemistry. There was definitely chemistry, which is great to see, because we've seen so many where there isn't. So they actually, in their scenes together, did great. In fact, in Duke too, like all of them, they just all really worked so well together. And Grady and Duke, their chemistry together, it really worked. It worked all around, and they all did a great job. And I really enjoyed this movie, and I recommend it. And now I have to go watch 2 more fall movies before we get into the Christmas movies. And hopefully, I don't have high hopes, guys. Honestly, do not have high hopes. So basically, but I don't know, the bouquet one, that one actually looks good. Like, I want to see that one. I'm not familiar with the actors, I don't think. I've just seen ads, you know, like, and I'm usually not paying that close attention to it. So, but we'll see. I shouldn't get ahead of myself. I haven't even watched it yet. I don't even know if I recorded it. But yes, so this is the end of this movie. Good movie. Happy fall. And hold on to your head because we're about to get into Christmas in like a week. I don't decorate for Halloween. I'm more of a fall decorator. And in fact, here's my theory. I feel like we should have, the holidays should be more spread out. I feel like Thanksgiving should be at the end of December and Christmas should be in February. So this is how it would work. So then you would have September and October, you could put up all your Halloween decorations. November, December, you can have up all your fall decorations, your pumpkins, your turkeys, your fall leaves, your corn husks, all that fantastic stuff. And then from December, you know, from then January and February, then you have all your Christmas decorations. There isn't this strong overlap of all of the holidays, and it gives you plenty of time to decorate for all of them. Because otherwise, I don't decorate for 9 months out of the year. I decorate for literally, you know, like October, November, December. And it's like I have to change out my decorations like that. So can we get Christmas moved to February? And plus then they're not, because honestly there's nothing happening from like January to May, and it is, where I live, it's winter time, so it's really depressing and long and just awful. So if we could fill January and February with Christmas decorations and celebrations, that would make that time of the year just so much better. But anyways, I digress.